the 23-year-old whose murder case shocked the entire world. In February of 2013, New Yorkers were horrified to discover the dismembered remains of a woman scattered in garbage bags across multiple locations in the Bronx. The first set of remains were discovered by a dog walker, whose dog was attracted to the scent of meat emanating from one of the bags. When the dog's owner went to investigate, he came across the dismembered remains and immediately called police. The dismembered body would be identified as 45-year-old Tanya Bird, a home health aide. She had been dismembered and then stuffed inside heavy-duty garbage bags, which had then been stuffed inside duffel bags and dumped in a number of locations in the Bronx. One contained an arm and a leg, another contained a portion of torso and shoulders, while the final contained a head. Her autopsy would conclude that she had been stabbed in the neck. Police immediately started investigation and found out the victim was brutally murdered by her own son. According to the criminal complaint, Basit had stabbed his mother to death and then cut up her body with the assistance of another man. This second man would be identified as Basit's friend, 26-year-old William Harris. He too was arrested on charges of unlawfully dissecting a human body and hindering prosecution. According to those who knew the family, Basit was a very troubled man who had been harboring anger towards his mother for quite some time. His grandfather, James McLean, said that his grandson often did destructive things, such as setting fires, and that they had trouble controlling him. Tanya herself was terrified of her own son. He was on probation after attacking 2 police officers with a knife back in 2010. She also suspected that he was harming his 7-year-old brother, Nasir, who had Down syndrome.
Oh yeah, that's sick, bro. Bro, I be scared to leave my mom at home alone by herself, bro. Let alone do something to her like that, bro. I don't even need to know the backstory, bro, because if you're that upset with the woman that brought you into this world, bro, just get the move, get the freak away, bro. Leave it alone. She let her live her life, you live yours, bro. Damn.
Now, next is my favorite part, mascara.
Wait a minute, let's read this. Dad mistook his daughter coming home from school as an intruder. A heartbreaking story happened.
A precious 11-year-old girl, full of personality, full of life.
Comment if you like the makeup that I chose.
But tragically, her life would soon be cut short.
She got off the bus, came into the house, her father shot her right in the chest.
6th grader Tamia Batts was like most girls her age.
Hey, YouTube.
She loved playing with makeup.
Today I'm going to be doing a makeup tutorial, what I have always wanted to do.
Favorite color was pink.
And the color I'm going to use today kind of matched my outfit.
And she loved to show off for the camera. In the fall of 2016, Tamia was excited about starting a new school year at a new school.
They spent all day out shopping for school supplies.
The 6th grader was dressed to impress for her first day at Knox Doss Middle School, just outside of Nashville.
She had all new clothes that appeared to me. She was very neat. She had her backpack on, looked like an angel.
At the end of her first day, Tamia boarded the bus and headed home, where she knew her dad would be waiting for her.
He wasn't sure what time she would be home, so he was home and thought he'd take a little nap.
District Attorney Ray Whitley says surveillance cameras captured Timothy Batts doing something else.
He was walking around in the house with a cell phone up to his left ear and a loaded handgun.
Just walking around with a cell phone and a gun?
Yeah.
In his hand?
In his hand. And the gun was loaded with 22 rounds of ammunition.
Minutes later, surveillance video shows his daughter Tamia coming in from school.
She took her backpack off, she set her backpack down, she took her shoes off, set her shoes very neatly by the backpack.
Defense attorney Joy Kimbrough says Timothy was just starting to doze off when he heard the door open.
Okay. I'm confused, bro. Like, bro, I gotta ask the question, what was the dad doing that made him feel like he had to be so responsive with shooting, bro? Like, what made him say, you know what? I'm gonna shoot first and ask questions later. Like, bro, that's your daughter. Like, was he on drugs or something? Man, that's sad, bro. That's sad.
This is John Bunn. He spent 27 years wrongfully convicted of murder.
I'm an innocent man, Your Honor, and I've always been
an innocent man. While living in Brooklyn, New York, Bunn was only 14 years old when he was arrested by NYPD detective Louis Scarcella. Bunn later spent 16 years behind bars and then 11 years out on parole, where he still fought to prove his innocence. Then finally, his conviction was overturned based on the wrongdoing of Detective Scarcella and the fact that there wasn't even probable cause to arrest Bunn in the first place.
Wow.
Y'all convicted and had a wrong man in prison.
And after 27 years of fighting to clear his name, he is finally exonerated.
I want to thank you, because the 27 years I've been fighting for my life.
But before he leaves the courtroom, he has a moment with the judge. Bunn later filed a lawsuit against the city of New York and Detective Scarcella.
Bro, it's sad. That man missed 27 years of his life that he can't even get back. And it's also sad that how much this happens in our justice system, bro. It's sad, bro. It is really, it's really sad, man. Sheesh.
On August 22nd, 1992, 64-year-old Cyril Olsen was bashed before falling into Rushcutters Bay Marina in Sydney Harbor. Police immediately identified Olsen's death as a gay bashing, advising the inquest of its conclusion. However, the coroner concluded that Olsen had drowned as a result of an accidental fall. Olsen's body was found without pants or shoes. His trousers were later recovered from the water. Olsen had been drinking heavily before he was bashed. A friend said a taxi driver saw him, bare-chested and bleeding, and asked if Olsen needed help. Olsen said he was perfectly fine and thanked the driver. An anonymous caller called the police on the day of Olsen's murder and said he had overheard a man saying, "Let's roll a poof tonight." The same man allegedly told a prison inmate that he had bashed a gay man who died. He denied involvement when questioned by the police. Investigator Steve Page wonders if the conclusion would have been the same had the victim been a woman or a child. Cyril Olsen's murder remains unsolved.
This pedophile was so terrible that when he was released from prison, they actually put out a public safety warning, warning people to stay away from this guy. This is James Alfred Cooper, who Canadian officials nicknamed the worst pedophile in Canadian history. So back in 1903, James was convicted of the brutal essays and torture of 6 children in Canada. And apparently he had used a number of torture devices to keep these kids from talking. He had used a cat o' nine tails, a cow whip, a cattle prod, belts, and sticks. I mean, 6 victims, they all went through so much, and this guy was responsible for all of it. James's background is shrouded in mystery. Nobody knows too much about what he went through as a kid, but he was convicted of assault when he was 22 years old back in 1958, and years later, his criminal career started out with burglary. So at first, when he would break into houses, he would just steal things for the thrill of it. He would take family photos, he would take fridge magnets, items from the kitchen. But that evolved into him wanting to wake up the people that he was robbing. He would stand over these people's beds, wake them up violently in the middle of the night, and then escape out of a window or through the door that he broke in through. But that evolved into a desire to SA people inside of their own homes. At one point, he SA'd a minor in their own home at knife point after waking them up in the middle of the night. He also did the same thing to a single mother while holding her at knife point. I mean, this guy was terrible, and it would only get worse. At one point, though, he married a woman named Patricia, who already had 3 kids. He would eventually have another child with her, and this is when the abuse of children began. And this is when the abuse really started. He would use these horrific tools to actually torture and abuse the children that were living under his own roof. And he did these mind games with the kids. He even made them eat things like their own excrement out of their pants while everybody in the house watched. I mean, this guy was sick and twisted. I mean, there's so much to the story that is so graphic and disturbing that I cannot talk about it here on TikTok. If you want to look it up, there's a great article online that explains this whole case, and it's just really hard to get through. But he would even do things like buy tubs of ice cream, rub it on his body, and make his children lick it off of him. He even at one point invited a neighborhood girl over with one of his own children, and he essayed both of them. Keep in mind, this whole time he was also physically abusing the children, beating them. He was verbally abusing them. He was just the worst person. I can't even get that across, how bad of a guy this dude was. Eventually, though, in 1987, he finally was arrested and charged with doing all of these horrible things. Eventually, DNA would link him to some of the break-ins that he had committed as well, and the assaults that he had committed during those break-ins. And at the time, he was given a 30-year sentence. Now, that doesn't sound like very much, but in Canada, that was the longest sentence ever given in Canadian history for crimes like this. But unfortunately, with Canada's laws, this meant that he didn't have to serve that much time for what he had done to his own children, to all of these kids for so many years, to all the random people he had victimized during the break-ins. And in 2012, he was allowed to walk free from prison after only serving 21 years. He was paroled out. And that's what led the Toronto Police Department, like I said at the beginning, to release a public safety warning, warning people that this guy was out of prison, he was walking amongst them, and that they didn't know what he was going to do next. So at the end of the day, if his sentences would have been imposed consecutively instead of concurrently, he would have been in prison for 180 years, meaning he would have died in prison. But since they don't do that in Canada, he only ended up serving those 21 years. Now, there is a little silver lining. Shortly after his release, he was re-arrested for breaking the terms of his parole. And at the time, he was on chemical castration drugs. He was actually urging his doctor to give him less of them. But since he was a first-time offender, as they called him back in '93 when he was sentenced, he was released shortly after violating the terms of his parole, and once again, he is somewhere out in Canadian society doing God knows what. I just thought I should make this TikTok to let you guys know that he is out there, and he's dangerous. He is a terrible human being. I'm urging you, if you want to read more about this case, to look up the news article. It is one of the most disgusting things I've ever read, and yeah, this guy is really worst of the worst. I can't think of a worse individual than this guy.
Yeah, folks, y'all lock that face in, because he might be somewhere close to you.
I'm weeping because the kid, she didn't have to kill them kids. She didn't have to do it.
Paul, 28, of Baltimore, was the mother of two beautiful children, Danira Thomas, 6, and Dabin Thomas, 8, whose bodies were found in their apartments in the 500 block of Coventry Road in southwest Baltimore on August 24, 2021. Neighbors complained of a strange smell, which they thought may be a dead animal or an overflowing dumpster. After maintenance was called to investigate the smell, they realized it was coming from the apartment Jamera shared with her two children. Once maintenance entered the apartment, they discovered the horrific scene and called 911 immediately. Once paramedics arrived, they found the body of a young child in a sleeping bag on the living room floor and the lifeless body of a little girl who was identified as Jamera's daughter in the bathtub with an article of clothing wrapped around her neck. They were pronounced dead on the scene, with their bodies being in the early stages of decomposition. Once the forensic examiner arrived, they turned over the body of the child in the sleeping bag, who was identified as Jamera's son, to discover a large weapon lodged in the right side of his chest and a plastic bag wrapped around his neck and face. Paperwork and ID badges left at the apartment led investigators to the children's mother as a suspect, who was nowhere to be found at the time. Neighbors arriving home to see the yellow crime scene tape around the building were in absolute shock to find that two children had been left for dead in their home. The neighbors, who especially knew the mother and her two children, couldn't believe this had happened. People who were familiar with them said that they would see the children playing outside all the time, and that Jamera seemed to be a very invested and loving mother. Jamera was even seen spray painting a new table for her kids in sky blue. The blue spray paint still marks the grass where she completed the project for her children. The children and their mother were last seen outside together on August 19, 2021. A neighbor told officials on August 24th that he had heard what could have been a little girl screaming, "Mommy, no, Mommy, no," the night of August 19th. The screams were suspected to have come from 6-year-old Danira, who was found in the bathtub. As police continued the investigation,
Nobody did nothing?
others told them they witnessed Jamira throwing away what looked to be children's belongings days before, but they thought nothing of it. They thought maybe she was just storing away old things and getting ready to replace it with new things. Another person who lives not too far from the apartment said he used to see the children playing outside almost every day when he walked his dog. He would allow the children to play with the dog and gave them pocket change or candy when he would see them. However, he said he had stopped seeing them for a few days. Jamira's mother told officials that the last time she talked to her daughter was over the phone on August 23rd. She said Jamira told her that she was in the hospital and the children had been taken by their father. That turned out to be untrue. Once investigators reached out to the father, he told them the children weren't with him. He reported last seeing Jamira within the last few days, screaming, cursing at no one, and walking aimlessly around North Avenue and Bloomingdale Road, and she appeared to be under the influence, he reported. The next day, detectives received a lead that Jamira was in an Uber headed to Baltimore County. Members of a special task force were called to the area of Philadelphia Road and Rossville Boulevard, where they were able to intercept the Uber that Jamira was in. She was taken in for an interview, during which time she confessed to the killings of her two children. She was then formally charged later that night.
Breaking news in Baltimore, horrific new information after a mother is charged with murdering her two children. Court documents show a neighbor may have unknowingly heard the moments leading up to the deaths of Davin and Danira Thomas. And just today, police released their mother's mugshot. Jamira Hall is charged with murder. Now, we want to warn you, some of the details you're about to hear may be disturbing.
That's right. Alexa Ashwell begins our team coverage with the charging documents released today. Alexa, they are so disturbing.
Yes, Chimera, these details in this document are horrific. It details how the children were found and that neighbors heard screams. What it doesn't say is why. Why kill these children? A question that remains.
That's what a neighbor told police. They heard 6-year-old Danira screaming from inside her home in Southwest Baltimore August 19th, according to these court documents. The little girl and her brother Davin found dead inside the apartment 5 days later. Two children now gone, according to police, at the hands of their mother, Jamira Hall. Her charging documents detailing the shocking and disturbing details surrounding their murders. A case that began this past Tuesday when a maintenance worker discovered the children dead inside of their apartment in Southwest Baltimore after being asked to investigate a foul smell coming from the unit. These court documents detailing Davin was found lying face down in a sleeping bag in the living room, a knife at that scene, and his sister in the bathtub with a clothing object wrapped around her neck, both in a state of decomposition and no sign of their mother. The documents detail Jamira Hall was last seen with her two children on August 19th outside the residence. That same night, a neighbor told police they heard Danira screaming, "Mommy, no." Hall arrested the next day. According to the documents, a witness telling police she had gotten into an Uber and was heading for Baltimore County. There, she was taken into custody and later gave a full admission into detail as to how she murdered both of her children.
Ooh, my Lord, man. Like, how do we combat that? Like, how do you combat, man? How do you figure out whether somebody's going to actually have a type of depression that would lead to something like this? How do you get that, bro? Because this happens too often, bro. Like, I can always say that I don't understand why would somebody do this, man, but mental health is real. It is. But it's also no excuse that we don't pay attention to this stuff, man. We like to laugh and point at stuff, man, but don't even realize how detrimental this stuff can be in the end, bro. Crazy, man. I feel so bad for them kids, bro.
Where's your daughter? Where's the knife at?
I don't even know what she used. I'm so sorry.
Come here. Come here.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
We're just gonna put handcuffs on just for now.
Sorry, just pull out.
Where's the knife?
Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I don't know what the fuck. I'm so fucking sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Please. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Julie, you better pray to God. I am sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
that is sad. So, 12-year-old sister stabbed 9-year-old sibling, bro. For what reason? I don't know, man. Man, this world is crazy, bro.
So what? Okay.
This is Chelsea Shipp, a TikToker charged with murdering a 16-year-old girl. I have to say allegedly throughout this TikTok because there's been no full verdict yet, but let's examine the story. So before the story came out, Chelsea Shipp was a normal mom posting videos on TikTok sharing her life with the world. And from the outside looking in, she looked like your average Texan girl. She often posted videos with her daughter like this one.
No, you're supposed to have one boyfriend. I have two. You're supposed to have one boyfriend. I got two boyfriends.
And it should be noted that Chelsea's account is still on TikTok. I don't know how they're letting an alleged murderer still have a TikTok account, but yeah, it is still there. So at one point in her life, Chelsea started dating this man, Cody Arnold. And at one point in their relationship, Chelsea found out that Cody had been dating a underage girl. This girl was 16 years old and Chelsea was seemingly fine with it, which is a disturbing twist in its own. But at one point, Cody came to Chelsea and said, "I think that Caitlin, the 16-year-old girl that I'm dating, is pregnant." This is Caitlin right here. She was only 16 years old when she died. And before her death, Cody had been grooming and essaying her a lot. So after finding out that her boyfriend's 16-year-old girlfriend might be pregnant, Chelsea decided she's not going to let that happen. She feared that if people found out about this, Cody could get in major trouble. Obviously, he would have. So on March 26, 2022, when Chelsea, Caitlin, and Cody were all hanging out in the same mobile home, Chelsea decided to take matters into her own hands. She grabbed a gun from the house. She walked right up to the 16-year-old and shot her point blank, killing her immediately. So at that point, Chelsea tried to hide the body. She contacted a friend, asked if she could use their car to do some things, and then she admitted to a friend that she had killed the girl. Now, one of that friend's family members was actually a police officer, so she immediately contacted the family member. They went and searched Chelsea and Cody's trailer home, and they found the body of 16-year-old Caitlin and a bullet casing right next to her on the bed. Chelsea tried to make a run for it, and she was arrested over 200 miles away in Liberty Hill, Texas. But these two are now awaiting their trial. I am really excited to see them go away, hopefully for a very, very long time. This is a disturbing crime. And it goes to show that even the friendliest, most smiley people on TikTok can hide some of the darkest secrets imaginable.
So true, bro.
The reason I killed him was because he was a child molester. No, you didn't kill him. Oh, sure, and you intended to. Oh, sure, yes. Well, if it's all right, I'd like to tell you where it started. Go ahead. All right, well, he was my bunkie, and I had found out that he was in prison for child molestation. Really bad case. So, that night he was trying to justify why he did it, and I just told him to be quiet, and he would have to leave in the morning to find a new cell. But he continued to talk about it and try to justify it, so he was a little bit bigger than me, so I got down and I hit him in his face a few times, and when he fell, I wrapped a cord around his neck and I took his life.
Sounds like some justice to me. Be honest, I hate to say that. I'm not an advocate of somebody being unalived, but in that case though, that's justice for the kids.
I melted on the couch at my parents' house and my body was found days later. My name is Lacey Fletcher. I warn you that this case can cause you a lot of fear. Clay and Sheila Fletcher were my parents, but the story I share is a narrative that defies belief today. It begins in January of this year, when a terrible nightmare unfolded in our home. At the height of this tragedy, I was found lifeless, tied to a sofa, my body apparently melted in that piece of furniture that had become my prison. I was covered in excrement, urine, and insects in an inhumane situation. Rescuers were called, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. My life had come to an end. I was born with a devastating condition called locked-in syndrome, which has robbed my body of all movement since I was young. This is the story of my journey, a journey that started with hope, but turned into a nightmare. I was condemned to spend most of my life stuck on that couch, literally trapped. My mobility disappeared, and I was left to survive in inhumane conditions. The upholstery became my world, and I stayed there, for years on end, unable to move, sitting in my own waste. The physical pain was unbearable, but the loneliness was equally devastating. My parents, Clay and Sheila, didn't take me to a doctor in over 2 decades. It seems they would rather I disappear. The outside world was unaware of my existence. I was condemned to isolation, forgotten by everyone except those who caused me such suffering. If you want part 2, leave a comment below.
Wow. Man, there be some cases out there that you don't even know about, bro. And all of the deaths that go on around the world, bro, it's hard to keep up with them because there's so many, man. Sheesh.
This is what a woman had to say after shooting her own son.
I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm innocent. You all. You're garbage.
She had gained custody of her son instead of her husband only 10 days prior. She was arrested after police pulled her over for a traffic violation and found the body in the trunk.
Eli will forever be missed by so many people that loved him. He will forever and always be in our hearts.
Police were unsure whether she killed for the life insurance money or because of mental health reasons.
This is Peter Scully, one of the worst pedophiles in world history. I'm about to tell you his story, but seriously guys, this one is incredibly disturbing. It's so dark, and viewer discretion is really advised for this video. So Peter Scully, he's still alive. He was from Australia, he had a family there, but he was engaging in criminal activities, and he eventually fled the country and moved to the Philippines. And this is where the darkness really began. While he was in Australia, Peter Scully started up an international child sex abuse ring. The things that were done to these kids are, I mean, I can't even talk about them here on TikTok, but he also started up a pay-per-view video service. And with these videos, he was producing CP, but one of the most extreme forms of CP that can possibly be produced. So how did all this happen? Well, when he was out living in the Philippines, Peter Scully had 2 Filipina girlfriends. They would go out to the streets, they would find kids that needed money or looked impoverished, they would bring them back to the house they shared with Peter, and the things that went on afterwards are literally unspeakable. Remember, like I mentioned before, Peter was the head of an international ring of people that enjoyed the abuse of kids, and he provided videos for these clients. But his most infamous video was titled Daisy's Destruction. This video that he produced was so extreme, so hardcore that people on the internet, when they heard about what happened in the video, literally thought that it was an urban legend, and they thought that there was no way this could be real. This is an actual screenshot of the beginning of the video. This is a screenshot from the very beginning of the video. In the video, 3 young girls are repeatedly tortured for hours and hours on end by Peter Scully and his 2 girlfriends from the Philippines. They are beaten, they are sexually abused. I mean, I can't even describe, like I said on TikTok, some of the things that happened in this video. And 18-month-old Daisy. Now keep in mind that all of this was on camera. That's the most disturbing part of this. One of Peter's victims actually ended up dying. They were buried in his house. And this sick individual literally sold that video footage across the world. And what's even more disturbing is that there were lots of people willing to pay to see that video. Man. I'm not kidding. People were paying $10,000 to view this video. That is absolute insanity that there are people that sick out there in the world. And this is only the beginning of the crimes that this guy carried out. Some of the other stuff that we're going to touch on is absolutely disgusting. It's just horrific. And the story of how Peter Scully was eventually identified and arrested is extremely captivating.
Speechless, bro. Speechless. Wow, man. I mean, what could be going on in people's heads to say, you know what, little girls, little kids deserve to be done like this? Like, what got to be going on in your mind?
If I told you your mother was in the courtroom here today, would that be the truth?
No, so.
That would not be the truth. Why is that? Because she's not in the courtroom?
No, so.
Okay. So your mother is not in this courtroom?
No, so.
Okay. And you're telling me that that is the truth, that your mother is not in the courtroom?
Yes, so.
Okay. Where is your mother?
Jail.
She's in jail.
That woman sitting right there between them. Have you ever seen her before?
Yes, sir.
Who is that?
My mother.
Now you recognize your mother?
Yes, sir.
Hey, James. Hey, James.
Yes, sir.
Give me your hand. All right. Give me. Here.
It's sad that people don't believe that once you have kids, your life is no longer just yours anymore. So you're not just living for yourself. Most of these cases that you see where the moms attack the kids or leave the kids in situations like this right here is because the parents feel like the children are taking them from this imaginary life that they're missing out on. When you can create a beautiful life and beautiful memories with your kids, man, I would never understand what would drive a parent to want to harm their kids or put their kids in harm's way. I would never understand it. You could call it mental illness, and I know mental illness is real, man. But this is just an act of selfishness to me, if you ask me, bro. I don't know. Just y'all get in the comments and let me know what y'all think.
Ma'am, I have a question. If this is a serious matter, I just left my cousin in the house with my kids. She just left my kids in the house when I came back from work. And my kids, 2 of my kids are dead. What do I gotta do? They dead. She left them dead in the house by themselves.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Where are you now?
I'm in my house. She left my door open. My baby boy, my oldest baby boy, is the only one that's here. Only one that's alive. She left them in the house by themselves. She left them in here, and they knocked the stove on. Can you listen? When I came in, the stove was laying on my friend. I don't know what to do. I just came home to work from this. And she just left my baby dead.
Okay, ma'am, I'm gonna get EMS and I'm gonna get police and fire at the location. Can you tell me where you're located?
Ma'am, I can't even talk. This is so serious. I'm so scared.
Okay, ma'am. I understand that you're scared. I completely understand, but I need to get some help out there to you now. Can you tell me where you're located?
I understand that, but can you please help me? Like, can you please tell me, like, I don't want to get locked up because this is not my fault. I had just came home from work.
Yes, ma'am.
I just came home from work.
Okay. Ma'am, the first thing that I need to do is get some help out there to you. I understand that you're upset and you're scared.
They in here dead. Like, she left my baby dead.
Okay.
And I don't have no way to reach her.
If you're not sure, if you were at work, ma'am, listen to me. If you were at work while this happened, then the responsibility is going to fall on your sister, and that's who you left them with. Okay?
Yes,
Hold
please.
on one moment. Yes, ma'am. Stay on the line with me, though. Hold on one moment for me.
Okay.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
My cousin was babysitting my kids and left my kids dead in my house. Ain't no telling how long they've been in this house.
All right, wait. So is your son, is he obviously dead? Is he breathing at all?
He's dead. Both of my children are dead. Please,
wait, she just said one of them was alive.
All right, ma'am. I'm en route, okay? You're en route.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Nah, that's bull crap. She did that, man. Man, it's messed up out here, bro, for these kids. And it's happening more and more as these young women and men are having these children, man. They don't have parenting skills as far as like dealing with them mentally. Anybody can hold a baby. Anybody could play with a baby. Anybody can do that. But we talking about when it gets tough. What are you gonna do? Y'all get in the comments and let me know, man. But hey, if you like what you saw, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Also, go to the Discord, man. Shoot some videos over there that you want to see me react to, man. But until next time, folks.